Welcome to another Kundalini After Dark session. I'm your host, Brent Spirit, here with two very special co-hosts. We have Justina Janda and Aaron Camp. Welcome to everyone else that's joining us tonight. We've got 26 in the Zoom room. We've got a few tuning in on YouTube. Very excited to see where our conversation goes tonight. If you're listening to the recording in the archive, you can join us for the next Kundalini After Dark session. You can visit brentspirit.com/afterdark to register. The links to everything that I mentioned will be in the description. So I'm here with Justina, Aaron. I've got interviews with both of them about their Kundalini awakening journeys and their work today as healers, as guides, offering support to those on their own Kundalini awakening journeys. So you can find out, go really deep in those interviews with them, but save that for later. Tonight, we're going to lock in together and see where our conversation goes. Of course, the links to connect with both Aaron and Justina are in the description if you'd like to connect with them a little bit more personally as well. So tonight, I'm about to give the floor over to Justina. She's got some interesting things to share with us about her journey and some other valuable things, I'm sure. After that, we'll open the floor up. We'll see what's on everyone else's mind. You can type in the chat throughout our call tonight. You can, once I open the floor up, you can share an audio or video as well. Maybe you have some questions for Justina, some questions for Aaron, some questions for the group in general. Maybe you've got some responses as well, some resources, some things to share about related to spiritual awakening and, of course, Kundalini Shakti. Maybe you can just say, hey, me too, I'm experiencing these types of things as well. That goes a long way to normalize all that we're going through. So that's our intention here overall. But first, just a few brief things. Firstly, thank you to everyone for all of your support, your donations, your engagement online. It goes a long way. It allows me to do this. It's really incredible, really incredible. I really appreciate it. So thank you, thank you. I've got a big announcement here. We've got a new event that I've been called to run. It's called Shakti Hour. It's free. You can join us on Zoom Tuesdays and Fridays at 8 a.m. Eastern. The intention behind this is we'll meet, microphones off. I'll play some music. We can sit together and meditate. You can stretch, do yoga, go into spontaneous kriyas, chant, pray, keep it on in the background. Whatever it is, just join us with the intention of contributing to a shared Shakti field, and we'll just see what happens. We'll just see what happens. I was called to do this, to host this sort of container to allow the Shakti to flow, and we'll see where it goes from there. So you can find out about that in the description, as well as brentspirit.com/Shakti Hour. Like I said, it's free to join, very low key and flexible. You can just drop in and just contribute to the field, open to receive, open to give, and we'll share in a transmission like that. Let's just see what happens. Both Justina as well as Aaron are featured on kundaliniawareness.org, which is our website with the directory of licensed mental health professionals with Kundalini awakening experience. So perhaps you're within their locality and you'd like to connect with them a little bit more personally. You can find out about that. Kundaliniawareness.org. We've got lots of other resources as well, peer support groups. There's a list of books, a list of videos, etc. Check it out. Bunch more links in the description for a bunch of free resources. While Aaron, Justina, and I are licensed mental health professionals, tonight's call is not a substitute for psychotherapy, counseling, etc. We're just meeting online to have a conversation on Zoom about spirituality. As well, of course, no medical advice here. Okay, we're just lay people having a conversation. So thank you all so much. I will leave it at that. Justina, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to hand the floor over to Justina. Justina, give us a little bit of background and context about your Kundalini awakening journey as you lead into what you've got to share with us.
Yeah, so I first experienced Kundalini arising in 2017. I was in grad school to become a counselor at that time. So it was kind of an interesting combination of stuff going on in my life at that time. So I had this pretty extreme couple of weeks where I had just a lot of stuff on, like altered states of consciousness and kriyas. And then I was like, what happened to me? because I had never experienced that before. And I hadn't heard of Kundalini at that time yet. But I was already friends with Brent. So Brent directed me to PKYC, Patanjali Kundalini Yoga Care. And I connected with them and worked with them, went on a long retreat with them to work on my Kundalini process. Because at that time it was sort of stuck. And so I've just gone through a lot of different types of experiences with my Kundalini, different states of consciousness, different Kriyas, different sensations in my body, and just different outward experiences that I feel like Kundalini is orchestrating in my life, which is actually what I'm mostly going to talk about tonight. So yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about that, unless, Brent, you think I should say a little more about it?
No, I think that's great background and context. And of course, like I mentioned, we've got a full interview where we dive deeper into your awakening process. I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy you mentioned PKYC because they've been invaluable for me. Their books have been invaluable for me on their journey, and I recommend their work to anybody that's interested in going deep into some of the the ins and outs of this process. So it goes without saying, Justina here is very well informed and experienced. So tell us a little bit more about this theme you want to unpack for us today.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what I've been experiencing in the last couple of years with my process, my spiritual awakening and Kundalini process. Um, so I actually, it's funny to say that 2 years ago, now I was still living alone. And now I have a partner and a baby. So a lot has changed in the last 2 years of my life. And there's been, along with those external changes, there's been a lot of ways that I've been challenged to grow. Um, Outside of, like, I guess, like the traditional way that we see spirituality. And I just want to say that I've always been very biased towards like the traditional spiritual path. I feel like I was a nun in a past life, and I've always been really into discipline and meditation and going on retreats. Um, and it's been, at times I've been like, pretty strict about it. So about 2 years ago, um, I was still living on my own, and I was going through a lot of like bliss states at that time, which I really enjoyed, of course. Like, who doesn't like some bliss? And I was, experiencing, deep states of peace. And I was just kind of really enjoying living by myself. But at the same time, I was almost like trying to control my environment in order to keep experiencing those states. Um, and I could tell like my ego was really, um, even though I was, trying to transcend the ego, of course, I could tell that my ego was still like really running the show for me spiritually. Like I was just like, I'm basically like a nun, like I'm living alone. I'm kind of blocking out the external world. And so that summer, the summer before my life started to shift into integrating the more human world and becoming more embodied, I went on a retreat with my teacher, Craig Holiday. He's one of my main teachers that I've been with for years, who I love. And I went on a retreat with him at the Kripalu Institute, which is a lovely retreat center. And there was one day that we were all sitting there before he was about to give a talk. And he just looked at me and he said, Justina, are you going to have a baby? And I was like, I don't think so, because, I'm worried about how that would affect my spiritual path. And he was like, no, like that will deepen your spiritual path. And he was just, so sincere about that. And I was like, oh, interesting. And at that time, I was already with my partner, and there was actually something in me that was starting to think about that, because, he just felt like the right person for that. But I was still like, oh no, that's gonna like derail my spiritual path. I have to kind of like be in control of the whole thing, and I don't need like these distractions. Um, so yeah, and so after I met my partner, and you guys have probably like experienced that, like in meditation, you can sort of hide from your issues in a way, like definitely, yeah, issues do come up in meditation while you're meditating, but you can sort of hide from them. You might not be aware of all of the different like subtle places that are hiding in the shadow that you still need to work on. But when you have a partner, it definitely starts coming to the surface more. So, I started to realize that that was an important part of my path, and let him in more. Um, and um, and then I became pregnant. Um, and I was really happy, but I was also really terrified of how it would affect my spiritual path. Um, so there's, I what I was realizing, during pregnancy and even now, as a mother too, is that there's so much spirituality that actually goes on, with pregnancy and being a mom. And these are very, feminine, I would say, like very feminine style spirituality, if you want to call it that. Like, of course, a lot of traditional spirituality is very patriarchal, like go to the ashram, go to the, retreat center, go to the monastery, and like stay away from women. Definitely don't have kids. Um, but I feel like the feminine path, which is a whole lot more, Kundalini like, because Kundalini is very, just like wild and out there and like messy. And so, so is pregnancy, and so is being a mother. And, in pregnancy, you lose control of your body. Like you're creating a life, but you're not doing it with your mind. It's like your whole body is creating this, and all these unexpected things happen, which is so true with Kundalini too, is that there's so much unexpected, and that's what actually helps to bypass the ego. um and I also had a really interesting birth experience where I had taken a birth class, and they had said, like for first time mothers, um it's about 12 to 24 hours of labor. Don't expect anything short. And I had only a 5-hour labor, and he was almost born in the waiting room. So it was, I noticed that, because I had that training in meditation, I was able to surrender to the sensations in my body more, and um, just know, like, I'm just going, I have to get through this. Like, I'm just going to let go and completely surrender to this process. So yeah. Um, and I I really do believe that Shakti creates like these life circumstances, for like specifically for our awakening. Like, where in our lives do we tend to try to like hide from something, um, try to like circumvent or spiritually bypass, like Shakti like will get in there and try to awaken us. So some people, it might be helpful for them to have a lot of discipline, a lot of focus like that. And other people, it might be that they need a bit more integration into daily life. um, and we are living at a time where you know we all have to wake up for humanity to get through all the challenges that are happening. Um, and we have to do that, in partnership, in a family, like with our kids. Um, we have to bring it into the world, to like birth something new in the world. Um, and yeah, I truly think that is an important part of what we're here to do. And as you probably like have discovered, in your own Kundalini journeys, it's like, our journeys aren't like really about us and like what our egos want, but really like uh, we're at service or in service to Shakti. Like she um, is here to, take charge of our lives so that we can live the way that she really wants us to. Um, and it's kind of a relief, honestly, to let go in that way, to like let go of, what we really want, what we like really expect on our path, and just sort of let her take over. And so yeah, and of course, like being a mom is challenging. There's so many ways I'm challenged to like be in the present moment, that I wasn't challenged maybe when I was single or just in partnership, to really be there, be present for this child, to be like a soul guide to this child. Um, so anyway, I think I just want to say that, um, like we're here to open up to the unexpected on our path, and like see what we're meant to learn from, and like be really challenged, you know, um, and not hide from the challenges. Like I was also really nervous to come speak here, but I was like, oh, it's kind of exciting because like I get to talk and face that fear of talking, public speaking. Um, but yeah, we're here to explore our edges and fully like integrate and grow as humans. Um, so yeah, I think that is mostly what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Justina. And of course, nothing to be worried about. That was fantastic share. Very, very human and embodied, right? And that's our aim here, is to speak about this process in a real way. We're not trying to escape through our spirituality. We're trying to go deeper. And I can't imagine anything more embodying than giving birth to another human being. So that's fantastic. I want to hand the floor over to Aaron to see if Aaron has any reflections. And then I may have a couple questions for you, but let's see what's on Aaron's mind.
Yeah, hey everyone. Brent, thanks for having me, and it's great to be back. Justina, that was just really wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, and a couple of things that I wanted to reflect. Actually, the thing that's really stands out in my consciousness was when you you talked about giving birth and being able to surrender very deeply to an involuntary process. It kind of reminds me of Kundalini a little bit, right? And the awakening process more specifically, and you know, whether that was the reason that your birth was kind of so to the point, if you will, who knows? But I can't imagine that didn't help, and I was just really moved by that because I don't, yeah, as Brent just said, like there's nothing more embodied and kind of in the world than gestating and giving birth. And for your meditation practice and what you've cultivated spiritually to be present right there shows a depth of integration that I don't know that I had seen in you prior to hearing you today. And for those of you who don't know, Justina and I are pretty close. So that was just really wonderful. And the thing I want to ask you, Justina, is um, because you've been in an ongoing Kundalini process and have stabilized quite a bit in that. I wonder if there's anything specifically having to do to that that you'd want to share with the people here and anybody who may listen to this after the fact. Tidbits of wisdom, encouragement, just kind of anything that comes to you. I just want to tap that.
Yeah. So are you asking about just ways that Kundalini is showing up in my life right now?
More so what you've learned along the way
Hmm.
in your Kundalini process, in your awakening process that you'd want to share, or just in this moment that you feel to share more specifically for people who are in an ongoing process at different points in their journey.
Yeah. Well, I think the surrender is a big one. That, you know, we are out of control, in the process. And we're just going with the flow. And, you know, I think that uh, I always felt like there's something very beautiful about, the relief of letting go of the ego in that surrender process. That, like, it doesn't have to be like really scary, but it can be a relief. And let's see here. Um, yeah. I think also that it takes a lot of endurance. It takes a lot of endurance to get through the Kundalini awakening process and the spiritual awakening process. There's so much that comes up for us to digest and process in the experience. And sometimes, when we're in the middle of something like really difficult, it can feel like this is never going to end. And we're just going to be stuck here forever. We're like going to be in hell forever, but that it does pass. I mean, everything is impermanent, like they say in Buddhism. um, and yeah. And what else? Yeah. And like we always have a choice of like going either with like the divine flow or with the ego flow. Like I even noticed this coming up tonight. Like I noticed I was feeling very nervous, and I noticed like when I was focusing my attention on the nervousness, it was building. But then when I, sort of like stepped into like a more like central channel kind of experience, I was able to like just be with that experience, but also be with like the truth. It feels like more like the truth, you know? So, yeah. Yeah.
Incredible, Justina. Aaron, thank you for your reflections as well. Um, I'll throw out a couple ideas here, Justina, if anything comes up for you. One of my friends described this process as, she said, I feel like I'm giving birth to myself. So, so that was an interesting way to put it. As well, you mentioned earlier that you felt like, perhaps in a previous lifetime you were a nun. And so being alone, this kind of felt familiar, safe, the way to do it. I have the same feeling myself. And in contemplation of it, what I recognize, and this is what I find is somewhat useful in contemplating previous lifetimes, because it contextualizes what we're going through in this lifetime. It helps us. I found like that feels familiar, but I came here in this lifetime to not be like some cave dweller for a reason. And so I need to actually step into what I signed up for here. And maybe in the previous lifetime, I faced the challenges of renunciation and asceticism, and that was maybe its own challenge. We kind of graduated that in a sense. Let's see what it's like to do it here. What comes up for you when I share that?
Yeah. So yeah, I have a super ingrained tendency to prefer like that monastic lifestyle. Um, and I would say like that, in some ways I still have some resistance that I'm working through with, living, a householder type of lifestyle. And because it is, it is more challenging. And I've even had a teacher say, actually a celibate teacher say, like, she thinks like that sometimes she thinks that householders are more awakened or enlightened than celibates because they have to face, more challenges. And they really have to, integrate more and walk the walk. They're often more challenged to walk the walk in their daily lives. Um, and I actually, that was part of the reason I became a therapist too, was because I knew it would like hold me to it, and that I wanted to walk the walk, like in this lifetime. Um, so yeah, I think what just comes up is how much more challenging it is, but also like exciting and rewarding and interesting. Really, like it's more of an adventure to live the life in the world.
Yeah, that's empowering for those who maybe feel like they want to run. I felt that like I want to run to a place where nobody's going to bother me.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to trigger me. That'd be so
Yeah.
much easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but not
definitely.
as adventurous.
Yeah, and well, it's like it's funny because I have that ingrained part of myself that wants to go to the monastery, but then there's also this part that's like, no, I really want to grow. I like want to do the thing here, and it's like excited about it. And honestly, it would be kind of bored just doing the monastery thing again. It's like we're here to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy's got a question for you, Justina.
Sure.
Tracy says in the chat here, thanks for your honest share. Had you stabilized from your Kundalini process prior to your pregnancy?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And I was actually like, I would say the most sort of like spiritually content that I had been, in my life, I would say, like prior to meeting my partner and getting pregnant. Um, which was why it was so scary too, because, I was like, oh, I'm in, this perfect spot. I don't want anything to change. But yeah, there was a stabilization. Not that I'm not still awakening, but there is a stabilization of it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Nonstop growth. I like to think that this process doesn't end, right? It's just next thing, next thing, next thing. And it's
Yeah.
exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you've got lots of feedback in the chat here, lots of people appreciating your shares. Sarah's relating with her own pregnancy as well. Thank you all so much for offering your feedback and support for Justina here. Okay. Well, let's hear once more from Aaron. Maybe Aaron has something to say about maybe feeling like they were a cave dweller in a previous lifetime. And then we'll open the floor up for some others to share as well. Anything coming up for you, Aaron? It doesn't have to be about the cave dweller thing.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Uh, yeah, no doubt many previous incarnations as a cave dweller. Um, um, let me just feel into if there's anything. For whatever reason, um, Craig Holiday has also been a very important teacher of mine. Um, his satsang is also going on right now, so shout out to Craig and the fully human, fully divine community. I always feel that energy flowing in when I'm here in this space as well. So, um, uh, he had a retreat just a couple weekends ago. And he was talking about his spiritual teacher, which he was with very closely for like 20 years, y'all. He had a very traditional relationship with his teacher. Talking to him, going, Craig, do you want to know what the most difficult thing, the most challenging thing on the spiritual path is? Right? And your teacher is leaning in to tell you the most difficult thing. You think you're about to hear some kind of guru secret. And he's like, yes, I want to know. And he said, Craig, it's being tired. It's being tired. And Craig went on to elaborate, which I appreciate, and I just feel is so real, that when the body is tired, all of our abilities to kind of stay focused, to stay present, all of those tendencies towards dysregulation, impulsivity, etc., get heightened. And I really appreciated that as well because Justina, 6 months, I don't know, I think just about,
Mm-hmm.
has also been telling me about how tired she is. And I just think that that's some kind of deep discipline to be that progressively sleep deprived, be taking care of a little one, be managing life, and also be in an awakening process. So for whatever reason, that was just in my consciousness. I'll drop that in. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
For sure. Like, I feel like it's been like this master class in like trying to keep my like equanimity with like all the challenges, like the sleep deprivation and just the babies have like constant needs and yeah, it's just so demanding, and so like having to really learn how to like fully respond with like equanimity, like and you don't even like respond to your partner always like that, but with a baby you're like, no, I have to, like, no, I'm going to. And so it's like I'm so like devoted to that practice, like even more now, with the challenges. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that Aaron, that piece is massive, even for myself as well. If I'm tired, I will tell people, don't come near me. Yeah, it's not right now, right? Because all of the faculties are not there properly. Yeah. I'm I like my sleep. I need it for sure. Maybe I should entertain being a little sleep deprived and see if I can walk the line like Justina does. So very inspiring, very inspiring. Thank you all. Thank you, you both. Of course, if you'd like to connect with Justina, you can find out about her work in the description. Right now, Justina, I believe you are working exclusively with clients in the North Carolina area? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm licensed in North Carolina.
Okay. Great. And Aaron as well. Aaron's got a YouTube channel, as does Justina. In the links are in the description, as well as Aaron's website, integratedawakening.com. If you'd like to connect with Aaron. All right. So let's open the floor up for some more shares on the call here. You can raise your hand like this. You can use the reactions on Zoom, um, like this. You can type in the chat. You can share an audio or video. We'll prioritize those on audio or video today. And you can have multiple conversations going in the chat as well. I will do my best to see if any questions and whatnot jumps out at me. But if you really want some responses from the community, try and jump on the call here. So we'll go over to our friend Tani, who's also featured on my YouTube channel. She's done an interview with me about her journey. Tani's incredible. Welcome, Tani.
Hi, aloha. And Justina, I just really resonate with everything that you have shared. And I remember listening to your interview with Brent before and just really falling in love with you and just your genuineness. And I just really resonated with you then too. So, and we have many things in common. I'm a mama. I'm a mom of 4 times, so my kids are older and having babies, and I have 15 grandchildren, and so I'm watching my children be very present in their life with all the miles that they walk in the middle of the night with their children, and when they're tired, they still have to show up and go, "Oh, that's a beautiful picture you just drew me." Maybe the millionth one they've said, "That's an awesome picture," right? And they're just kind of pulling. I remember all that. And I do think having little people in your world that you absolutely care about and want to do a good job with, and still being a human being and awakening at the same time, it's no little thing, but there's no mistakes, and God really knows what He's doing. So it's an ever-present little thorn in the flesh that we address, a love thorn, maybe, but so congratulations. And also, when I was really in the thick of waking up to my emotions, mostly I had the Kundalini experience back in 2000. But as you all know, there's so many different levels and layers to it, and timings when God can penetrate deeper into you, or Shakti wants to teach you this now. And I remember I had a dream. It was just I had lots of dreams at that time because all the processing and information and just data coming my way to sort through was just ongoing. And even when I was sleeping, and I had a dream, and I was pregnant in my dream. And I knew I was pregnant with my own self. Um, I knew it. And you know how dreams are kind of funny, anything goes in a dream. Well, it was like I was pregnant, but I was pregnant 4 times. But what God showed me through that, or Shakti showed me, was um, I was birthing not only my physical self, but my emotional self, my psychological self, and emotional, psychophysical, and spiritual self. And I remember just going, okay, I know that somehow I am not really in the world yet. I'm in the womb still. I'm pregnant. I'm in my own womb. And maybe it was probably a year later that I was laying on my yoga mat, and I realized I am out. I am now birthed. I just felt like I'm just a newborn baby, and figuring out everything for the first time, like what I like, who I am, what do I do, what music is part of me now, how I talk, everything. And I just realized that as I was laying there, felt like just that newborn baby that, whoa, this is not a birth of me deciding and figuring this out. This is a birth of the spirit that is going to be moving me throughout all these departments of my life. And because of my spiritual orientation before, I always knew I wasn't in control and I wasn't the doer of all this. And I knew that, but this was in such a deeper realm because I was working through my own body, my own emotions, and the repression and the traumas, and so I just really relate to that. And I think the only thing I would say there is to keep reminding ourselves that acceptance um, is really kind of like remembering God all the time. Just remembering this is God's thing. This is not something that I can direct or need to even direct. I have to endure and live through it in really intense ways. But that was kind of like my birth experience with my children. Like I didn't have pain with the birthing of my children. It was really intense and there was pressure, but there was no pain. But this kind of felt like that. I'm going to have to live through this intense pressure cooker of this. And the steam is going to be let out little at a time. And I'm going to have to be really patient and loving and do the whole thing. But for me right now, my kind of growing edge is to meet pain, physical pain, and I'm much better now. Emotional pain doesn't scare me at all. I've just been through so much emotional pain that I'm kind of like, okay, there's another layer. We're just going to do another thing. But physical pain is pretty real. Do you know what I mean? And so when it comes, I know it's actually not. I might be feeling it physically, but I know it has emotional roots. So I have to go there, and I am learning how to deal with the physicality of it, as emotional things get brought to the surface. But there's something that's shifted in my attitude towards it all, which I notice now. It doesn't feel like it's a bad thing at all. It feels more like this is just what I need. This is just what I need now. And and the surrender comes pretty easy with that recognition that this is not wrong or bad. It should be here. That resistance isn't that strong with it. I'm not saying I prefer it. I'm just saying that I recognize it as God as much as anything beautiful or pretty. And I went to a psychic one time, way, way, way back, and they told me that I had had many lives sitting in a cave, and I was no earthly good. But this wasn't one of those lifetimes. So I joined with you all in I'm just gonna go over here. Kind of situation. But anyway, I love you, Brent, and I love this group and talk. And Erin, when I saw you the last time you were here, I fell in love with you too. So aloha, everyone.
Mhm. Much love, Tani. Yeah. Happy to have you out of the cave and in the world with us here. Yeah.
You.
Yeah, very inspiring. Accepting is remembering God.
Yeah, I loved that quote. I want to write that down. Accepting is remembering that everything is God. Is that what it was?
Yes, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
The 10,000 things. I don't have a particular statue I like any more than I like my plant right here or something, it's just pretty much all of that and everything.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tani.
You.
If anyone else has any reflections, any questions for the group, you're welcome to raise your hand and share tonight. We had a question here from Fenya. Fenya shares here, I've been feeling pressure at my tailbone every day now. Is that signs of Kundalini energy? It could be, but of course, it also could be, something that you may just need to visit the doctor about. And I really mean this. Um, Outside of that, I think it's pretty interesting that you found yourself here in this community. I think that's also a significant sign of something going on with your spiritual awakening process. We're here in some pretty incredible company. So, something to consider there, Fenya. And I bet if we could sit and go a little deeper and have a conversation, we would find all sorts of other signs related to your spiritual awakening process outside this obvious key one of pressure at your table. And there must be many other things going on like that. Let's hear from Deborah.
Hi, Brent.
Hey,
Hello,
Deborah.
everyone. I have a question about deepening spiritual connections with close friends, significant others, with meditation or other kinds of spiritual practices. I've had a couple of long-term relationships, and none of them we would ever meditate together. It was always like my own practice, and I found that over time to be really draining. One relationship lasted for 18 years, and we ended up being really close friends. But clearly, something as significant as one's spiritual path, for me, I needed to be on that path in some way with my partner. And so about 10 years ago, I started having experiences with, I don't even know how to use the term. It might be a reflection of myself. It might be what people call a twin flame. Words are at a loss for me, but it was and continues to be a daily experience, so much so it feels like we are looking through each other's eyes and we're so knowledgeable of one another. So this has been something that I've been curious about for a very long time. And about 5 years ago, I started working with measuring brain waves and trying to correlate different states. There's more emerging and evolving science, which I find extremely fascinating, to be able to understand different states of consciousness through different lenses. And so one of the systems I built enable two people to be able to meditate together and coordinate and compare the signals from the EEG signals to each other, to use those signals to create different forms of sound and light. And so I was I was asking, how many people out there meditate with your partner? I think I posted on Facebook and I asked a couple of questions in some groups, and I was met with literally dead silence. And I felt so awkward because it was like, what was wrong with my question? I know that there's people that share time in church and they have rituals at home that they pray together, and it's confused me ever since. And I'm very concerned about community and about relationships being under so much strain because of what's going on right now. And at the same time, I seem to be picking up more signals that there is some sort of evolution going on that's beyond, our apparent reality. And so I was just kind of curious if our guests or you, Brent, or anyone in the audience had any feedback or experience with either a similar type of experience, or do you regularly meditate with your significant other or someone very special with you?
Thank you, Deborah. Go ahead, Justina.
Oh, sure. So I meditate less just with since I've had my baby, but my partner and I do meditate together sometimes, and we'll actually do this practice also that I learned from one of my teachers called dyads, and I've done this with Aaron too. And it's sort of a type of meditation practice, I would say, because so basically, like, the two of you, sit across from each other, and you have a timer. It can be like, as little as 5 minutes, or even like 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes, where while the timer is going, the other person just holds space. And while you're talking, you're tuning into your feelings, what's going on for you, what's going on in your mind. And I have found this creates a lot of intimacy with my partner and I. Like sometimes you can just like sort of be going about your days and busy. But if you like sit down together, like intentionally, and start really tuning in and sharing, what's going on, it really like opens you up to each other, and I find it a really beautiful practice.
Amazing. Aaron, can I see if anything's coming up for you?
Yeah, I should say as I said in my interview with Brent, my path has been that I really wanted a spiritual partner, and my partner has their own spirituality, but it doesn't lend itself to these kinds of mutual practices in the way that you're talking about specifically, Deborah. I mean, just to throw this in, my partner and I, let me say this. A month ago, my partner and another partner of mine, because I'm polyamorous, we were in medicine ceremony together, and they reflected to me a pattern in which I was being very controlling in my relationships. I was being controlling, manipulative. This was a month ago. And it's like, for me, the piece around it, and again, Deborah, I appreciate that you're asking a very specific question, but it has to do with like my meditation and relationship is often going to the depth of wounding, let's say, that my relationships touch, and beginning to be more transparent there, becoming transparent in that place, not just to myself, not just to a professional, but in the people I'm in relationship with. And um, um, my partner and I, my nesting partner, if you will, my partner who I live with, we've been doing something where we've been staying closer to our experience together. We've been voicing how we've been feeling, and really staying closer to like how I'm feeling, and not trying to characterize the experience of the other person. And that has been like a meditation on its own, in opening up and kind of being wholly human. So that's what comes up for me.
Very interesting and inspiring. Yeah. What's coming up for me is I feel within romantic relationship, though not always, there tends to be polarity, right? Masculine and feminine, right? And the practices themselves often lend themselves to masculine and feminine, right? And so it may be for some, sitting in stillness may be understood to be more of a masculine practice. And so to have both partners who maybe prefer to sit in stillness, it may imply some sort of lack of polarity at times. So maybe that's perhaps why we have one partner who prefers stillness and one who's like, I like to dance and be in nature and sing and move and whatnot. And that may be part of it. I do know some couples as well that do sit together in stillness as well, though I imagine that's not all that goes on in their spiritual practice. Just some ideas coming to me to consider. I understand that type of longing to want to share our practice with another in such a deep way. That working through that and finding interesting creative ways like Justina and Aaron and their partners have, I think that is also part of the practice too, right? Finding our it's like art, right? We have to be creative about it and find something to make it work together like that. Yeah. Amazing. Let's hear from Catherine.
Hi, thank you guys. This has been lovely. Nice to hear everybody. I think I kind of picked up on the twin flame and evolution of relationships and kind of like a co-process almost. And I just, I only have my experience, so I just wanted to share that. So I've always, like, since I was little, I had a lot of spiritual, mystical experiences. Like, I've always had a pretty close connection to spirit, and started studying at 19 with my teacher. And then in 2015, I met my twin flame, and I had no idea that that was that relationship. And when it ended, that started some of the telepathic, lucid dreaming, altered states of consciousness. And I was actually really scared. I didn't know exactly what was happening. Ended up within the next year, I went into a huge spiritual test, huge, huge, huge. And I was able to put basically my process started then. I didn't realize it until last year when it all kind of came back together. But it took me to West Africa, where that's where spirit reconnected me with him. He's from West Africa, and it was just it's been a wild trip. But and that reignited friendship, yada yada. But basically I'm in a co-awakening with him, and I had a soul merge with him, and I've been really helped by Richard Rudd's work, the Gene Keys. Um, and it's almost felt like a curse sometimes. It's been very challenging. But it's and Spirit has made it very clear that the twin flame, I will not be with him, but we're connected. But I'm also just curious if other people have had co-awakenings, because Spirit will just orchestrate these like wild, like lessons for me, where it's just so, I mean, it's just so out there that it's like, this is, I'm being given like, I mean, just the synchronicity, it's beyond synchronicity. It's like a whole day of Spirit just educating me on what's going on. And yeah, it's just been, I think, it has been, yeah, I'm curious if other people have had co-awakenings. I think that's the main curiosity. So thanks.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing, Catherine. Yeah, this may be one of the main reasons we were forced to come out of the cave so we can have these co-awakenings. I saw both Aaron and Justina nodding, so let's see what they've got for us.
I feel like, you can, I guess I'm not totally sure what you mean by co-awakening, but I do think that we can co-awaken with like any partner in a sense, like that with each partner, there's like certain things that are triggered to the surface that you're there to work through together that only like this person could like specifically hit on. But that being said, I have had a relationship in my past that, I sometimes thought was a twin flame. I'm not sure if they were, but there was definitely like the synchronicity and like the really intense draw to that person. And I tend to, I feel like, the twin flame thing can sometimes be unhealthy or misinterpreted as like awakening relationship too. So I think I just have like some caution around that because it can be people can think a twin flame relationship is a twin flame relationship, but it's actually sort of like an unhealthy trauma bond. But I think there can also be like these really powerful connections with someone where, maybe we have like some past lives and we just have like really similar karma to work through together. But yeah, I mean, I think we're always having co-awakenings, like almost like with everyone around us in a way. Like each person, we have something to learn from and with. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, Justina. It's a loaded term, especially in our culture now, the twin flame thing. So definitely we want to be careful not to overly romanticize toxicity or even abuse in some cases. But yeah, powerful stuff to explore, for sure.
Yeah, I also am super suspect of that term, but like Catherine, I hear that you're experiencing something unbelievably deep with another human being and soul, and the intimacy is like you said, it's more moved into a friendship, but is deep in subtle realms, which you have great sensitivity to. And I think that's wonderful. And I am somebody who has also had the opportunity to just have really deep connections with many different kinds of people and in many different capacities, personally, professionally. And I love picking up on this thread of co-awakening in the way that you're talking about it, Catherine. And I also widening it, like, we're all co-awakening together right now. Somehow we all ended up on the call together. And of course, Catherine, you're talking about a very specific experience with a person. And I like broadening that out. I think about the person that I work with professionally too. So I'm the client, and I look at him oftentimes and just go, man, I'm so thankful for this guy, and it's so clear that we have been together and done this before. And the way that his support flows to me is like, talk about co-awakening. And I feel that way with all my teachers. And I feel that way with people I've fallen in love with. So obviously I'm not giving a ton of details, more just broadening the context. But Catherine, I also see you have your hand up, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, go ahead, Catherine. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all the reflections. Yeah, I think I just wanted to clarify, like it was, well, first of all, I started getting, I'd been friends with him for, I know the term is loaded. And I think there's a part of me that it's just such a personal experience. I think it's hard to deduce it to kind of a generic phenomenon, I guess. But like it was through, because we reconnect and we're friends for 5 years, nothing of note, and actually very good friends. But it was through reconnecting, it was through a hug that I just, a portal opened and I saw divine perfection. I just saw it, like how everything made sense. It just was this moment of just like, and it also been shown in meditation, his spirit. And I started crying. It was so beautiful. And I was doing energy work with a woman in Brazil, and I had a visitation from Jesus, and I'm not even Christian. And it was a very, very, very strong message. This, we're all one. And but what happened with me was that there started to be an energy share. Like I started to viscerally feel there was an astral knowing or claircognizant knowing, and then a physical embodiment. And I started having just psychic abilities open up. It was very like, I think, yeah. So there's a part of me that's protective to not have it kind of placed within the cultural context of twin flames, because I think like you look online and it's I don't like to look online for a lot of spiritual stuff. I'm kind of, I have my teachers that I trust, but and I agree. I think that, I mean, that's been my experience in the Kundalini, that it's like everything, every person I meet, I'm supposed to meet. And, there's this just flow that nothing is accidental. So the co-awakening, absolutely, like bringing it wider to like we're all co-evolving and co-awakening, but there's something very specific about this dynamic that has been a catalyst for my awakening. And yeah, so anyhow, Richard Rudd's work has been really helpful in that, and he kind of lays out the mystical marriage, and that's what I feel like it is. And I've asked God like if I could get out of it, and it's like, no, this is the person you have. And I got a very strong message, because a lot of the work that I am called to do in the world is around trauma healing. And that was my thesis at Harvard. And then I mean, it was all divine perfection. So I know that, it's my, like I get to live in my own experience. But yeah, I think the idea of just, I don't know. Yeah, I like the idea of co-awakening. So
Mhm. Incredible, Catherine. Yeah, definitely. Like we were unpacking, yeah, we're all co-awakening together, and can kind of dilute it to that way, and it's all good. But there's definitely these like punctuated relationships that are like, we cannot put them in a box, and they're very special. And like you said, it's like beyond synchronicity. There's just all sorts of really incredible magic that happens between, two people in these connections that we can't deny it. I've experienced it myself, but the thing that's interesting is I've experienced it with different people in different ways, which suggests to me that there's something much bigger than this idea of just like your one twin flame or soulmate. I think there's just the next relationship that's meant to catalyze your awakening, and those themes are specific to that specific relationship, and it's like really, really exciting. It sounds like you're in a very mature place considering the intensity of your experiences. So some people, they get kind of happened to me, of course, you get kind of lost in the sauce, right? It's like really intense stuff. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Let's see what's coming up for anyone else. I'll just check out the chat here. And if you've got something to share on the call, maybe you have a question for the group, for Justina, Aaron, anyone else. Maybe if you can take the conversation in any direction, really. It's a bit of a tricky subject. I'm not sure if Justina or Aaron want to touch it, but on the topic of entities, um, and any thoughts here? Fenya is asking here, when we see dark entities interacting or trying to harm us, what do we do? Now, I will preface this by saying, entities, I think they are acknowledged within internal family systems, within IFS. Perhaps they're components of the shadow. Anything coming up for you, Justina, around this topic? Did you experience any entities in your journey? And you can pass it to Aaron, and Aaron can pass it to me
I
if they
have
feel like.
not personally experienced entities, thankfully. But I mean, I've had a couple of friends who have, and there's one friend told me what they did, which like really stands out to me. Was just like giving a lot of love to the entity. Like because that's what they need in a way. That's why they're so dark. They don't have love. And then also, I tend to like always pray to Archangel Michael for protection from any, darkness or negative energies. But anyway, Aaron might have more to say, because I think I know that you, Aaron, sorry to misgender you. I know that you have experienced entities on your path.
Yeah. And I've heard Brent speak on this before, so I know that this is not a topic that is outside of the kind of purview of this space, which I actually really appreciate. I feel like the entity conversation could use more grounded spaces to land in, because it's something that spins out of control real fast. And what I want to say about entities in a brief period is that, like, fundamentally you're checking your relationship with your power, and how grounded you are in yourself. Absolutely nothing has authority over you that is not in relationship with something in you that doesn't know that, that isn't standing in that. And that is exactly what a lost being, like an entity is trying to feed on. They are looking for those places that you are scared, that you don't have your ground, and they're looking for you to buckle, because we all have those, but it's when we cycle there. And they're just looking to feed off that energy. Let's be super clear. They're just looking to feed off that energy. Entities are something that I'd really like to normalize. I look at them like viruses. Your bodies are all fighting right now, viruses and bacteria. That's just something that you're doing all the time. And like in older traditions, that are more kind of esoterically oriented, there's a sense of spiritual hygiene. They know that this is going on, and it's like, hey, listen, eat well, sleep, exercise. Like, this is what we do to stay healthy. It's like, hey, right? Know your power, know your subtle body and what helps it to kind of open and stay clear. But again, fundamentally, I want to say, like, yeah, where's your power at? The entity doesn't have any authority, I promise you. And the other couple of things that I want to touch on are like, and you don't need to lean on yourself here. Justina just talked about Archangel Michael. There are beings that are willing to take care of entities for you that are just so incredibly powerful and know exactly what to do with them. I'm often praying in the name of Jesus and Maria Magdalena, Shiva, Ganesha, Nityananda, the divine, like all sorts of beings to just go, hey, y'all, just clear these things. Yeah, hey, yeah. Open portals where these beings have assistance to return to the light that is themselves. For those beings who are not wanting to do that, take them away. Like, hey, you got this. I don't need to do anything. And then finally, I do just want to say, for those people who are already grounded themselves and maybe experiencing entities, like what Justina said about love is absolutely right. And it reminds me of a story that I heard relayed by Robert Falconer, who is an IFS practitioner, and has kind of brought this forward in the IFS world. They're called non-attached burdens now, very, very objective kind of name. But of Milarepa, right, a great Tibetan tantrika who goes back to his cave and it's just full of entities. And he says, hello, it is so wonderful to have you. And he begins to cook for them. And he begins to, recite poetry, play music, whatever. And they begin to leave and leave and leave. And then there's one left, the biggest, baddest, lion on fire entity about to eat you alive. And he goes, no problem, I'll do it for you. He puts his head in the entity's mouth and goes, I'm here. And the entity disappears. And it's just to say, for those people who do have the grounding, to just approach them with love, that is what they need. And they will either be transmuted in that love because they are seeking to return to themselves, or they will be dispelled by it. And all to say, nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. Brent, all yours.
Aaron, Justina, thank you. Thank you. Powerful, powerful, inspiring. Yeah, I'll keep it very brief. Two things that came to me about entities at one point. They come to scare the fear out of us. That's their gift. Push the button of the fear, it comes up so we can see it and release it. That's because nothing else could do it. That's their role. The other thing is they're like children that just never learn manners. They're just coming very rude, like a child. Hey, can you help me? I'm lost. I'm hungry. I'm starving. I'm in need of love. So we treat them like a child, but not our child. We don't take them into our house. We just say, oh, you're a child. You didn't learn manners. That's okay. I'm not going to start fighting with a child because I'm an adult. I don't do that. I love you. Continue on your way. It's that way. Go in that direction. That's where the light is. That may be the first time they experience love and they go, whoa, what was that? I want more of that. Where can I get it? And they're on their way looking for it now. This is what I've sort of boiled down my entity conversation to. But incredible shares, Justina. Aaron, I love that story and your telling of it. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's hear from Tawny.
Yeah, just I like what you said, Aaron. That's where I come from too, in the sense of they demonic things we might call devils or entities, like they don't have any authority over us at all. They don't, but they're in what I've discovered for myself. Um, Firstly, prefacing with devils live in houses of thought. So when I would hear a thought that it was sticky with me, right? So it hadn't been cleaned up. Then they would come and try to, in that weakness, have their in. And really, their only, what I found for myself, their only fake power is in their ability to deceive you and lie. And so when I used to have an eating disorder, and I started working with this on that level of devils live in houses of thoughts, because I knew the lines that would get me all the time, like, you just need to go eat, you can't handle life, it's too much right now, you just need to go escape for a little while, things like that, right? So I used to, I would hear that. And when I did, I would actually go in another room and I would talk to this one. And I would say, in the name of Jesus at that time. Now I say in the name of love, right? But I command you to go, that I see what you're trying to input into me and I'm not in agreement. And I would literally just kind of do like what Jesus did, rebuke it in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like I would make that entity and his voice kind of get further away, so I wasn't hearing that voice so loud, so I could then be in my true self and get clear on what was real and what wasn't real. And so whenever those kind of thoughts would come up, I would do that practice. And in the beginning, it was many times a day. I'm going, okay, I'm hearing that again. And I was really committed to healing. And the more that I would make them go away, not like you're a bad person, but your truth is not going to be able to stick in me as long as I can remain in my truth, right? So and that is actually how I got over a very intense addiction, is working with my own mind and and hearing and discerning truth from falsehood and siding with my own self, my own true self. And so when I could make those voices go further away just by my voice of speaking, then my mind would correct and I would be in my truest self. And then I wouldn't have those crazy desires. And after a while, the frequency just left and left. And then when I got into the emotional suppression work, that really helped clear out any threads of wanting to do anything that was resisting what was, that was avoidant or not facing really what was and what was going on with me. So I think the main things I'm just saying, they have no authority over you, only the power that you give them. And as soon as you understand the lies and deceptions that they're trying to inflict into your thinking and trying to like intertwine, have their roots in so many ways and avenues. And when you start pulling those apart, they're not even that smart. There's maybe like I found 3 or 4 or 5 lines that they would just repeat all the time. And then I could discern them. And so anyway, that's my little 2 cents on entities.
Oh, thank you, Tawny. Aaron, I see you laughing uproariously. Did you want to comment?
The only thing that I wanted to say about it was the thing that they're not, not all of you are from the United States, but you may be familiar with what's going on in our country right now. And it's kind of wild. But the piece around Tony's just saying, they're not even very smart. And they just repeat the same 5 lines. It's just funny because but first of all, it's so true. But secondly, this is also what happens in cults in politics, and when it comes to appealing to deep emotional structures in people and in groups, it's like, oh yeah, it's not even that clever at the end of the day. It's just hooked into some deep structures. And once you see that and can kind of own your power and kind of get some distance, things can become very clear very quickly. But anyways, that was just the connection I was making, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, fascinating. And Tawny, from your share and your experience, it goes to show that we're not just speaking solely about, these entities separate from us that we are, practicing loving. Like the work that we do with our engagement with them has actual healing benefits and transformations in our human here as well, right? As you described. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And the only reason they can play with us at all is because we're unclear on some point.
Right. Yeah. I'll pass it over to Justina, and then we'll hear from Fenya. Anything coming up for you, Justina?
Yeah. I mean, I like what Aaron said about how if we just like disentangle the what they're saying from the place that has the shadow side and ourselves that has hold over us, then they can't have hold over us. So it's really, it sounds like they're just really showing where we still have shadow material that we need to work on. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Justina, I just want to, I know you have a baby, so we're just about to reach 10:30. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I actually told my partner before this that we might go a little over 10:30, so I think I'll be all right. So.
Okay, great. And just a reminder to connect with Justina as well as Aaron. Their links are in the description. You can check it out. But we're not done yet. Let's hear from Fenya.
Brent.
Hey, Fenya.
So in reference to my other question, the pressure in my tailbone, I actually feel that when I meditate or if there's any kind of music coming on. And my first experience was I was going to meditation. I was doing breath work, prana, and I saw in my vision blue mist come up. But then once I saw that, I stopped and I felt this cold tornado rise. But then when I stopped the breathing, it went back down to my tailbone. And ever since, I've been feeling this pressure, and it's very annoying. And so that's why I asked if it's Kundalini energy, because I have not had a spiritual awakening. Although when I was younger, I guess you can kind of say I was born awakened. I did have gifts of telepathy that I remember. I did meditate. I remember being guided as a child to meditate. I don't know how. It was something within me was telling me to do it. And I remember being visited by angels. I even remember being visited by loving extraterrestrials, and doing energy work when I was a little kid. But due to my indoctrination, I forgot everything. And since then, back in 2018, when I lost my son in a car accident, it was like another awakening, like something inside me that told me to look. And so since then, I started meditating. But recently, this energy that I've been feeling started in the last couple months. I've been listening to a lot of like meditational music, and about 2 weeks ago, something just told me turn all that off and just sit in silence and put your awareness on your heart. And so that's what I've been doing. But this pressure, I don't know what it is. And I think that based off what I've looked on, I've heard people talk about it popping and then this Kundalini or Shakti energy rising. And so I was just wondering if this is what that is. But I also have visions and dreams of memories of me having a Kundalini awakening repeatedly and going through the same thing, where, just like the symptoms you've talked about, where you have your stomach issues, and then when you're going through Kundalini awakening, your body is just really achy. you see the entities, the head pressure. But with me in my past lives, when I had these Kundalini awakenings, when I would see these entities in these past lives, I would get freaked out. And so I would always go back to my religion, and they would perform an exorcism on me, or like a holy anointing oil over me, and everything would just stop. And so I was asking about this also because a friend is recently had gone through Kundalini awakening, and she said that so she has twin babies, and it's been very, very difficult for her because she went through that void state where she cannot function at all. And right now she's at a phase where she sees these dark entities, and she doesn't acknowledge them, but they seem to only come to her at night. And she just sits in her bed. You can tell she has bags under her eyes. And there's even been times where during the day where she just hears whispers in her ears, like the whole entire day. When someone tries to talk to her, these whispers get louder, as if they're not allowing her to hear other people around her, her family members, talk to her to see if she needs any help or anything. And so she's going through a very difficult time right now. That's a lot.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Fenya, thank you for sharing. No, there's nothing to apologize for. The reason that we meet here, and the reason that I have Justina here, Aaron here, the reason that I open the floor for others to share is to show that this is a very unique process for everybody. There's specific things that are just specific to each individual, though there are overarching themes here. So you're not alone. You're not alone. Justina, does anything come up for you in response?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like it could be Kundalini. I personally have had these blissful sensations in my tailbone, and they kind of crack me up because I'm like, oh, I'm having like ecstasy in my butt. But yeah, I'll get these like blissful sensations in my tailbone. And I feel like pressure can definitely be a big part of the energy moving. So yeah, I mean, to me, I would say that like it definitely seems like there is some connection there for you, and it also sounds like you have some maybe some past life trauma where like the religion you were in like suppressed the Kundalini from coming up, and so maybe there's like some fear that's still suppressing it. I don't know, that's just what came up for me when I heard that. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, it's valuable. Yeah. I have a general response to those who approach me with this question of, is this Kundalini or something else? And at times it may feel a little flippant and dismissive, but I'll say it anyway. It doesn't matter. The reason it doesn't matter is because the work is the same, right? If it was Kundalini or it wasn't, the same work applies, and it's safe work. We're not saying, okay, you got to do this really intense thing, or you've got to, do this, stand on your head or something. It's just very simple, safe things, which is take care of your body, turn inwards, engage in some spiritual practice, meditate when you feel called, study whatever spiritual material interests you at the time at your own pace. Very gentle things. And if it's not Kundalini, well, you're not going to get harmed. And if it is, well, your process will be supported. But, based on what you're sharing here, Fenya, to me, this is like, quite a significant awakening process unfolding here. And you're in the right place. And I listed at one point in one of the presentations I did all the different quote unquote signs and quote unquote symptoms of Kundalini awakening. And one that I listed where I hadn't seen anywhere else was genuine interest in this topic. There's just something about this topic that is just magnetic to those that are going through it. And to those who aren't, they tend to just overlook it or think it's crazy, or it doesn't hit their radar. It just kind of almost just goes right over their head. But to those that are interested in it, sometimes I've heard people, they will hear this word Kundalini arise from somewhere within their own head, having never heard it before in their life. And now they have to go out and find it. So something about this theme attracts those that are involved in this process and just doesn't really attract those that have nothing to do with it. Or perhaps they're on the brink of having something to do with it. So that's another meaningful sign. Go ahead, Justina.
Also, I find and this is by no means like the only definition of Kundalini, but I find the definition of Kundalini from PKYC, Patanjali Kundalini Yoga Care, helpful too. Because what they say is that Kundalini Shakti is really just like the inner spiritual director, and that she just directs all spiritual awakening, and that the energy component is just like one of her aspects. That's not everything, although like most people think of Kundalini as just being energy, but that it's just like something she uses to awaken us. So Kundalini Shakti is the spiritual director that is guiding us, even like bringing us here together to awaken us. So
yeah. Oh, thank you for bringing us to that place, Justine. I read that in their work, and it landed for me, but I admit I got a little lazy with my use of language, and I kind of still just refer to it as Kundalini energy and this and that. But truthfully, she's the intelligence far beyond, I think, even energy, that uses energy as a tool, like you're sharing, to carry out this process. Yeah, thank you for taking us there. Let's hear from Sarah.
Hi. So I had some of this experiences, I guess, when I was younger, some of the dreams, some of the thought processes like you guys are talking about, the hearing a lot of the negative thoughts, very self-critical. I don't know, maybe because I'm a Virgo, I'm a perfectionist, part of my personality, bittersweet. But so when I experienced this Kundalini awakening that I believe the 1st of July last year, I started on this spiritual path, and I first felt that I was kind of possessed by maybe even Lilith. As we're talking about some of the dark entities and spiritual paths. And like I said, I don't know all these labels and stuff because I'm learning, I'm researching. So like I kind of felt like, Lilith had maybe possessed me or something called upon me. But maybe that was the Shakti and just raising me up and empowering me in my own sovereignty. And that's kind of what I feel like more. But I don't know, do you guys have any feedback on that? Thank you.
Checks out for me. Sounds like you're bang on. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I really want to jump in here too, and just that's right. You're bang on. Like, and let's be clear, Lilith in the Christian mythos, just to hit that point real quick, she got a lot of shade, but she was just a real powerful woman. Hey, okay, so you're being possessed by Lilith. That's like being possessed by a goddess, and enjoy. Yeah, no, I just want to really, really deeply validate that I feel that you're right on. Like, no, you're just being empowered by the Shakti, and to really embrace the kind of leaning into or opening into the positivity of that, and letting go of the fear. I want you to know that I have very strong Virgo placements in my chart as well. I am no stranger to that self-criticality, but you know what else that brings is a great deal of doubt of your internal experience. And I want to just hone in on that as a fellow Virgo and just say, yeah, that strong analytical mind and that tendency towards doubt can be just a little bit of a hang up here. And I think that you're already right on, and I just want to encourage you and double click in the direction that you're moving. And I actually felt possessed, pun intended, to speak to this entity thing on one more side, because there's also a way, like I said, this conversation goes off the rails real quick. And one of the reasons is that people start treating internal parts of self as entities. What is what, et cetera, et cetera. Like Brent said, when we keep it simple, everything just needs love. So that helps to like soften needing to make a distinction. But for whoever here or whoever may listen later on, like it is there's an importance to being discerning, because treating internal parts of self that are coming up and may come up as compulsion, may come up as impulsion. These parts have been relegated to the unconscious because of the traumatic material that they hold. And so when we double down and try to resuppress them as if they're entities, we're just kind of looping, if you will, in a different way. And again, nothing to be too worried about. Spirit will show you if that's the case. So it's like you don't need to get too in your mind about it. But that's just been sitting with me since we opened the conversation. So I thought I'd say it real quick.
Amazing. It's a fantastic angle to consider as well. So many angles we can get at this entity thing from. Yeah, so many angles. Yeah. On the topic of Lilith, I'm currently reading a book. I'm making my way through it slowly, so I've been mentioning it to people for weeks now. It's called Dancing in the Flames, the Dark Goddess in the Transformation of Consciousness. And so the title alone says a lot, but it may contextualize and validate your experiences there, Sarah. Like Aaron was saying, like you're being possessed by a goddess. Like this is incredible. And this book highlights those themes. I just want to see if anything comes up for Justina here when we speak of the dark goddess.
Yeah, I've had times where Aaron knows about this stuff, where I feel really possessed by her, and like she's like teaching me inwardly how to be a woman, how to like be in my feminine or like woman power, like this like sort of like totally unshakable, like something you're like never taught as a woman in the world, but you know, being shown. I mean, maybe some people are taught, but a lot of people aren't. That you know, to stand in this like really unshakable power. And during that time, I found Ariana Grande has this song called "God Is a Woman," and I just felt like that song really like possessed that energy that I was experiencing, you know, in those states of like what she was showing me, like in this like divine like goddess, like wild, like yeah, there's this like feeling that I think that maybe religions have been afraid of, and that's why you know, Mary Magdalene has been suppressed, and just you know, the feminine has been suppressed a lot in religions, because you know, Kali, like the dark goddess, is like this life and death, and like doesn't like really like give a crap about like you know, your fears, and you know, she's really intense and like wants to she's just wanting to like get you there, like past you know, the fears to like the power of life and death. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of fear of the feminine because there's the power of life and death, you know, in the feminine, in nature, and it's really, it can be really brutal and intense like that, but just ultimately so powerful. Yeah.
Thank you, Justina, for being with us today and radiating and embodying your divine feminine for us, especially opening with that beautiful share of your pregnancy and giving birth and the importance of being in the world. That's really what we're here to do, to connect, to relate, to be in our bodies. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll begin to wind down here. I'm so appreciative of everybody joining today. This has been a really powerful call, especially to Justina. Thank you so much. Aaron, thank you so much. To everyone else that jumped on the call as well, thank you all so much. Check out all of the links in the description if you'd like to connect with Justina. Like I shared, those residents of North Carolina may be available. Justina may be available to work with you. Aaron also has some offerings as well for those in the Pennsylvania area as well as both Aaron and Justina have YouTube channels. They offer their support. You can check it all out there. Any last words, Justina? And then I'll hear from Aaron, and then I'll ramble a bit more.
Just Om Shakti Ma. Yeah. Yeah.
Daima. And how about for you, Aaron?
Just a quick note that I work with folks all around the US and internationally. I'm licensed in Colorado actually, and will be getting paneled with insurance there. So if you happen to be in Colorado, I'll be paneled with insurance there in the coming months. But I work with people all around. Justina, I just wanted to tap real quick. I just so appreciated your message today, and just being, a person, with ovaries and a uterus, and being female identified, being a woman, holding down the divine feminine. I just think that there are so many levels to that. You have all of them, and you bringing what you did into the space. It just feels really powerful to me, and so needed in the field. So I just really want to express that to you personally, as well as more broadly to all of the folks who bring that, and that's male identified folks who are in their sensitivity and in the Shakti and in the divine feminine too. So I just want to bring that forward. But of course, anybody who is born as a woman, is female identified, etc. There's something so powerful coming forward there, and just so needed, because that patriarchal movement in religion has been quite dominant, socially and politically as well. But like, truly, this is something that we need to rectify. Truly, this is something, and having someone like you come on and share in the way that you did. I mean, talking about your pregnancy, talking about birth, talking about your experience as a woman, it does that in a very specific way, and it's a medicine we need. So I wanted to say that. And as always, Brent, this community, thank you so much for having me. It really is a pleasure to be here. And I want to say something that I said last time. I'm often sitting, listening to people as they share, and just falling into a place where I'm receiving their transmission. It's like, yeah, I'm here to hold the space, and I take that seriously, but then I just drop in and I'm like, geez, I'm just receiving from people. It's so beautiful to be in that peer vibe and that horizontality that Brent's space has very uniquely, and that he's cultivated. And I've really received a lot from that each time I've been here. So Brent, thank you. And to the community, thank you so much to each and everyone.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you all so much. And on that, Justina, I can see you've got something on the tip of your tongue there. Go ahead.
Oh no, I don't really. I'm just grateful to be here, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so on that note, Aaron, I want to remind everybody about the new offer, Shakti Hour, Tuesdays and Fridays, 8 a.m. Eastern, on Zoom. It won't be live streamed. It won't be recorded. We'll just be able to gather and, like Aaron was sharing, to receive as well as to give a transmission of whatever as Shakti may flow through us all. We'll just do it as an experiment and see what happens. So all of the links to everything that we've mentioned today will be in the description, kundaliniawareness.org. Check it out. You can check out the previous episodes of the Kundalini Awakening series, the After Dark series. We've got interviews with Justina, Aaron, Tani, and many others as well. If you'd like to join the Kundalini Q&A meetings, Mondays, 2 p.m. Eastern, the link is in the description. brentspirit.com, lots of free courses and things. You can check it all out. Thank you all so much for joining tonight. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.